jump over to St. Clair. No, he's not. He's trying to go into Goodwill. That's a really dinky parking lot for the Northwest Goodwill store. And here we go. Whoa. Cut out in front of that truck there. Whoa. That's dangerous. Let's cut out in front of a dump truck, man. That's scary. It's raining. Surprise, surprise. Alright, we're up to Thursday. Chicken down October. But we're more than halfway through October, so we're making progress. You know, I just can't believe the amount of traffic. But that leads me to the next point, which is that survey that finds that traffic use, personal automobile use, is at an all-time high in America. And the only statistic about commuting that's shown any real increase is carpooling. The transit has remained pretty steady. It's surprising, you know, it really is, because the cost is so high now. But it, like the article said, the cost has just been factored in. It's just become part of a living now. It's not whatever that money used to be spent. Whoa, God, this Burnside Road is just a mess over here. God damn, this is bad. I gotta remember, get in the left lane. I should have known that, but I forgot. God, that's just horrible. Why can't they fix this road so that you don't have that, you don't be bouncing around like that? Shit, with all this construction in this city that's going on, they can't get Burnside Road properly paved. Another government failure. Yeah, that was an interesting article, and it also showed that streetcars and all that are insignificant. For all the money that's being dumped into these streetcars and light rail, it has no effect. It has no effect on the rest of the commuting structure. And the question it posed was, rather than dumping all this money into this stuff, don't you think maybe they should be worrying about making the personal automobile more efficient and creating an easier to navigate structure for cars, given the fact that people are not going to give up their cars. I mean, I drive because it's just so much more convenient than a light rail. I mean, I have to rush if I want to make the early light rail. I hate rushing, and then if I take the late light rail, by the time I get home, it's way too late. I don't want to get home at that hour, so it's not convenient. They also did a study on the congestion pricing, which you hear a lot about that on Portland Transport. Congestion pricing will stop people from coming into the city. Well, it turns out that's false too. It turns out that it stops it for a while until people get used to it, and then that also becomes part of the accepted mode of travel, and the congestion becomes just as heavy as it ever was. Initially it stopped, but then people just pay the price for it. Okay, here we go on our favorite road. Skyline Boulevard. I guess Steve drove his 20 over this the other day. What a horrible road for a 40-foot transit bus. And that just goes slow. 20 miles an hour is fine. So the congestion pricing doesn't work either. They also talk about how however many lanes you have, they will be filled up by traffic. That concept I don't understand. It doesn't matter how many lanes you build on a highway, they will be filled up. Which that doesn't make sense to me, but they say that the more lanes you put on the highway, it's not going to actually improve congestion, although I don't see that as true, because here on Highway 26 West, before they put on the on-ramp from 217, this would be backed up all the way. It was a huge congestion problem getting down Highway 26 past that 217 merge. Now it moves pretty good, and the only time when there's a problem there is when there's a problem further up the road, and it backs up onto 217. But before, I remember commuting before they did that addition, and it was a much bigger jam on 26 West. So I don't know, I wonder about that idea that, you know, no matter how many lanes you have, they're going to all be filled up by traffic. I mean, at some point you'd have enough room. I mean, wouldn't that just be, that's like saying no matter what you know, it doesn't make sense really. I mean, if you build enough lanes, at some point there won't be that many cars to fill them up. The idea that no matter how many you build, they'll all fill up, I don't see that as possible. But that's what the article says. It says no matter how many lanes you build, the traffic will seek its own level, and you'll end up with just as congested highway as you had before. So it's odd. So those are two pretty good articles that I read today, because when I was reading the things like I like to do. Here's the scene of the motorcycle accident that's getting thumbs down from dozens and dozens of bicyclists who are not bicyclists, I talk about YouTubers who are not happy with I think that they're responding to the laugh at the end of the video. There's this like laugh where somebody's laughing about the video, and I was curious about that too. The person who took that video didn't even know there was a laugh on it. I mean, look at this traffic flowing east. Every day we see this now. Thousands and thousands of cars flowing east on Highway 26. You can't tell me that if they improve the way that the traffic could flow onto Highway 405, that would not reduce congestion. It has to. The problem with I-26 West, east, I-26 West is fine now, but before that Highway 217 ramp there, it used to back up all the way up here. But since they put it in, it flows all the way through to Murray. Now Murray will get backed up, and that will back up the ramp there, but that's got nothing to do with the connector anymore. So you can't tell me that if they put on a better way to merge onto Highway 405, that this wouldn't back up every day like it's doing. But they had put no thought into that, you know. You have one lane, you have the entire Highway 26 going down to one lane, and it doesn't, it backs up. You get too much. It lasts for hours. It's going to last for hours like that. It could be 3-4 hours if that kind of traffic flow will last there. Anyway, and the other thing I did today was I pulled up the request for safety assessment report. And to my surprise, nobody's filed a request for safety assessment, according to that report, since May. So that's June, July, August. That's 4 straight months without anybody filing a request for safety assessment. And that's rather odd if you ask me. And I think there's only one explanation for that. I call it the yellow card explanation. They haven't filed for it because basically people are realizing that nothing's going to change. I mean, I realize it. I put in what I thought were 2 very reasonable requests. One to build in time on a road relief so I can set up my bus. You'll see this in the next sign up. You'll see on my 67, I have to jump in the seat and take off. No time to set up anything. I'll adjust my mirrors and my seats and all of that as I drive down the road. And I'll get to Beaverton and I'll have, I'll get to Beaverton and I'll have 10 minutes of layover, which is nothing, you know, that's not a layover. Especially if I'm late. And a lot of these, the 67 can be late coming into 158. So I'll have less than 10 minutes. So I do like to get a cup of coffee when I'm down there. So there is no break. And then I go to Rock Creek and there's 2 minutes. So I'm basically driving stressed for, I don't know, what's an hour and a half before I actually get a break and I can do what I'm supposed to do. The complete opposite of my route that I have now. Completely opposite. Which leads me to the point I was making yesterday, which is that there is no template for scheduling to produce a run. My 58, for example, even if he's 20 minutes late, I will still get 15 full minutes to set up my bus before I have to leave. So, and that's great. That's the way it should be. You shouldn't be pressured into just taking off from the minute you get in the bus. You should be able to at least have some time to set up your bus. So the 58 works perfectly with my concept of what would be a perfect route, and the 67 is the exact opposite, where you jump in the seat and you go on down the road, and you're fiddling with your seat, you're fiddling with your mirrors, you're fiddling with the transfers, if they, you know, whoever I relieve, if they even bother to give me transfers. You know, it's much more hazardous condition. They have no, but they don't acknowledge that. Their response to me was, we build in time to do that. Well, they don't build in time to do that. Okay, that's not even true. It would be nice if it were true, but it's not true. They don't build in time, and 67 is evidence of that. So much for that. Anyway, the request for safety, nobody's bothering to fill them out anymore. It was a flash in the pan idea that has now gone by the wayside, kind of like a yellow card, you know. And that's what it turned into for me, is a yellow card. It's like, fill this out, take your time while you're not driving the bus, and you fill it out and you give it to somebody who will get paid. Their particular job is to evaluate stuff that you did on your time. So they, on their dime, well, the company pays for them to look at these things, and then you get a no, sorry, we're not going to do that answer. And you can only do so many of those before you say, fuck this, and you just stop doing it. You know, and that's what happened with the request for safety.